Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm still getting set up, but I've discovered that it's fine to get set up while also beginning the show, because nobody is that worried about what I'm doing over here, as long as we're having a stimulating conversation. Welcome, EJ. Welcome, MM22492, GG Ma. This is Tim Fisher 123. I like that name. Tim Fisher 123. Don't. I used to know a Tim Fisher. I'm going to go ahead and follow Tim Fisher 123 because I like the name. I will follow you if you want me to. If your name is cool, like Seafoam 77, that's pretty cool. That could be a color. Mark Manelli. Is that what it was? Mark Manelli. Welcome. Steve Walker 216. I try to keep an eye on the comments, but sometimes they get away from me. Jubilee, Mark G, Dan Pickett, Husker Kathy. Gee, I'll bet you're from Nebraska. I'll bet you're from Nebraska, aren't you, Kathy? Which is good. I used to drive up to Omaha from Kansas City with my friend, and this, I'm not bragging, this was back before we really thought about drinking and driving very much, and we would try to see how many beers we could kill on the road, taking turns driving a Chevy Chevette. We're probably running about 75 miles an hour. Whole thing was probably rattling. Anyway, we'd see how many beers we could drink between Kansas City and Omaha. And it turns out you can drink a lot of beers between Kansas City and Omaha. So if you've got a good story, I don't see any comments over here on YouTube yet. I'm running a stream on YouTube and TikTok. I wanted to see how much my video card could handle. But the trick is, and I have to watch both sets of... Hey, Husker Kathy joined from my short videos. Well, that's nice. I'm glad she did that. Welcome, everybody. This is the Brother Seamus Show. I like to think of this as, this is church, people. So if you're Catholic, if you were raised Catholic like I was, I'm not Catholic anymore, but you had to meet your Sunday obligation. And I am a licensed minister. How about that? So this technically meets your Sunday obligation if you're a rogue Catholic. I don't know if that is similar in, like, you know, other Protestant faiths, that Sunday is required. It seems like it's required for most Christians, but... So hit me with your questions. Today's statement is, or today's lesson, we could call it that, is an egg is not a chicken, people. An egg is not a chicken. And then the other, this will be on the exam, abortion saves women. That's counter speech, folks. We're doing a little counter speech here today. And I don't know if the term counter speech has like a strict definition, but the way I'm using it is to say abortion saves women speaks back in a more factual, honest way to the statement that abortion kills babies, which I don't even like saying. But that phrase has dominated for so long, people. Since I was a child, I've been hearing abortion kills babies. And what I didn't realize is what they were using a trick from Mein Kampf, the extreme anti-abortionists. And Mein Kampf, whoever wrote it, maybe it was Hitler, maybe it wasn't. Probably it was mostly Hitler's ideas, but he stole those ideas from horrible people before him. And the idea is you lie about something, you don't just lie, you say the opposite. So what's the opposite of abortion kills babies? In my mind, the best answer I've come up with is abortion saves women. And where's the pernicious lie? When you look at the old, what's the right word I'm looking for? What's the trick that makes abortion kills babies? Why is that so effective? Why has it worked so well? Because they've kind of won the argument. They have. They finally got a president who really didn't care at all about abortion, and he has signed 3 of the most anti-abortion justices to the Supreme Court, and right away they killed Roe versus Wade. So that was the game, people. And now some of you are happy about that, and that's okay. I'm your brother Seamus. I'm going to protect your right to believe whatever you want to believe, but I will question your right to harm other people because of your religious belief. So what's happened now with Christianity, and we don't want to talk about it this way, but in the United States, what's happened, and it's happening as we speak, is that Christianity, not just regular Christians, because regular Christians are fine, just like regular Catholics, just like regular immigrants. But if you're an extremist, now we got trouble. So what happened is extremism found its way into the Supreme Court, and the first thing they did was they made the law so confusing and so threatening that doctors are now withholding abortions from women having miscarriages, and they're dying. We're doing that right now in 2024, people. Isn't that something? Isn't that something that we went ahead and decided, okay, we're just going to kill women through malicious neglect justified by unconstitutional state law. And then the doctors are bowing down and the hospital corporations are bowing down, and everybody's like, well, no more miscarriage treatment. Whether you believe in abortion or not, being denied miscarriage treatment? Come on, people. Seriously? We're going to do that in 2024? It's such a disgusting, and again, I'm not blaming Christians in general, not Christians writ large. I'm blaming the extremist faction of Christianity, which has decided to anthropomorphize a fetus so that they can then lie to you and tell you that you're killing a baby. Anthropomorphize will be on the exam, and it just means when you attribute human characteristics to something that's not necessarily fully human yet. In other words, you use the word baby, which is a lie. It's not a baby. A baby is a very well-defined member of the human community. An undeveloped fetus is what you're talking about. And until there's a soul, I'm a licensed minister, but I should let you know I don't believe in souls. I mean, there might be kind of a quantum physics sort of soul thing going on where our energy gets together and it clumps up, and when it gets in the right clump, and then it's a Brother Seamus, or it's a Susie, or a Tim, or a Tim Fisher. What was it? 222? Where'd he go? There's a Tim Fisher in here somewhere. Unless he left. Anyway, welcome all of you folks. Welcome to the show. I'm your brother Seamus. We're talking about abortion, and I'm talking about the counter speech to abortion. Or sorry, the counter message that I'm going for is that abortion saves women. And I'm not saying that in like a hysterical way. I'm saying that in just a basic factual way. Abortion does save women. It really does. And now while I'm saying that, I'm looking at my screen and I'm thinking that I should probably center up that sign a little better. Because I am the stage designer here at the Brother Seamus Show. I do all the props. I do costuming. I do hair and makeup. This sign was made with fluorescent bingo markers. I bet you didn't think I was going to say that, did you? Let's go this way. And then I can come over and stand next to it and talk if I want to. So abortion saves women is kind of what we're dealing with here. As a measure of counter speech. Because, see, Steve Bannon told us what they were going to do before they did it. Well, they were already doing it. Rush Limbaugh started it. This isn't new. But they, in the words of Steve Bannon, one of Donald Trump's most trusted friends who actually scammed Trump voters and got them to give money to a Build a Wall campaign, and then they were just partying on a yacht with some billionaire Chinese guy. But Steve Bannon got pardoned. His two accomplices went to jail because Trump wouldn't pardon them. So Trump pardoned Steve Bannon from stealing from you if you're a Trump voter. I just want to remind you of that. Somebody ripped you off. You guys gave real money to the Build the Wall campaign, and Steve Bannon stole it from you, spent it, hanging out on a yacht doing God knows what, probably, I'm joking here, probably snorting some lines off of a bikini-clad hooker. I don't know. Your brother Seamus wasn't there. I don't usually get invited to party. I don't get invited to party with the billionaires very much. Maybe because I have so much criticism for them. Maybe they don't want me in their club. So that message, abortion saves women, is a fact. It's a non-histrionic, non-hysterical fact. And I know this makes people uncomfortable, but I'm just going to keep talking about it because I have to. And I grew up with this. If you were born in the 50s, 60s, or 70s, you grew up seeing giant signs that say abortion kills babies, and it's a pernicious lie. It's a lie taken straight from the logic expressed by one Adolf Hitler in the book Mein Kampf. And the lie, the part of the phrase abortion kills babies, the biggest lie is the word babies. Because we know what babies are. Babies have what I think most Christians think of as a soul. For me, being a psychologist for 30 years, the idea of a soul and the psyche are the same thing. I think they emanate from the same place, the same idea. I don't happen to believe it's a soul that floats out of your body, but maybe the electrons go tripping through space when you're done. I don't know. But while you're in this body, you have this congealed sense of yourself, this gelatinous plasma body. And people have seen things. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that people have seen like plasma. I mean, you'd call it a ghost, right? But how does that work, and what's going on, and where is it going? And are you just seeing the dissipation of the human energy, the human psyche, which for a lot of us is troubling, and that's why we made up the idea of a soul, because we're scared that our bodies, that when we die, that's it. But maybe that's it. But maybe that's okay. Because what were you before? You don't know. You were nothing. You didn't care. You were hanging out on a beach drinking a Corona, being a nothing. You didn't know you were a nothing. You're not like, oh, I'm a nothing. I want to be a something. You were a black hole. You were, or as I think it was Emerson, Lake, and Palmer reminded us, you were stardust. And probably that stardust landed on a planet that had enough water, and it wasn't so freezing cold or so boiling hot. And then we became people, but we're not really probably from here. We're probably from somewhere else. And I know you probably want me to tell you what the aliens are that we've been seeing that come up out of the ocean that the Navy fighter jets can't keep up with. And I'm happy to tell you, whether you're watching this on TikTok Live or on YouTube Live, I know what the aliens are. I really do. And
Welcome to the Brother Seamus Show.
I'll share it with you momentarily.
1, 2, 3,
But you got to stick around for that. I'm not just going to tell you what the aliens are. And even though if you're watching on TikTok, you're seeing a big giant image of Bigfoot. I'll pull that up for the YouTubers too. I want the YouTubers to be able to see the giant image of Bigfoot.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's see, where did Bigfoot
to the
go?
Brother Seamus Show. 1, 2,
This is my new promo. I just recorded on my looping
Welcome
pedal before he
to the
got
Brother
here.
Seamus Show.
There's Bigfoot.
1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to the Brother Seamus Show.
Welcome
1,
to the
2,
Brother Seamus Show.
Welcome
Now I should show you a
to the
picture of an
Brother
alien
Seamus Show.
right now, because I'm going to explain momentarily, for those of you just joining, I'm going to explain the
to the
aliens
Brother
they
Seamus
found
Show.
in the ocean. Well, they didn't find them in the ocean. The Navy fighter pilots have been chasing them around for
To the
years,
Brother Seamus Show.
and
2, 3, 4.
I'm going to tell you what they are,
To
because
the
I think I
Brother
know.
Seamus Show.
And my made-up idea about what they are is just as valid as anybody else's made-up idea of what they think they are.
1, 2, 4. Welcome to the Brother Seamus Show. 1, 2, 3, 4.
An egg is not a chicken,
Welcome
people.
to the Brother Seamus Show. 1,
An egg is not a chicken.
Welcome to the Brother Seamus Show.
All right.
1,
All
2,
right, all right.
Welcome to the Brother Seamus Show. 1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to the Brother Seamus Show. 1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to the Brother Seamus Show. 1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to the Brother Seamus Show. 1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to the Brother Seamus Show. 1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to the Brother Seamus Show. 1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome
All right.
to the Brother Seamus
This
Show.
is an AI image
1, 2, 3, 4.
of Bigfoot.
Welcome to the Brother Seamus Show. 1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to the Brother Seamus Show.
It's an AI image of Bigfoot, one of my first AI images. I'm
Welcome
very,
to the
very
Brother.
proud of my work here. I typed into a little box, and I said Bigfoot walking in the Sonoran Desert. I think I said Sonoran. That's my favorite desert. And I thought it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I think the torso is a little off. There's something weird going on with the torso. I don't know what it is. Like the muscles aren't right. At least according to every Bigfoot I've ever seen. And the feet are nothing but hair, which I guess, that could be. I feel like the feet would be a little better defined here. But that's the fun of AI, is you can conjure up something in your mind, and you can make it happen. So it turns out the aliens that they've been seeing, people have been seeing them flying all over the place. They come up out, they seem to want to touch the water. They seem to they want to fly into the water for some reason. And we can only imagine some sort of hydro fusion, hyper advanced fuel system is happening. But I don't think they came from outer space. I think they came from inner space. And I think it's a branch of humans that split off when they started to realize that the Homo erectus and or the Cro-Magnons were they were gonna be too violent. They were too violent to deal with. And so this group valued education and safety and permanence and sustainability, although they probably didn't communicate it that way. But they withdrew, and they worked as fast as they could to develop a way to stay alive. All their kids got free Montessori preschool. Kids had not only 2 meals a day paid for by their public school, but 3 meals a day if they had working parents or if there was some problem at home, and nobody would have to apply for it. They would just get their free lunches. The teachers in this split-off group of humans, the teachers never had to have more than 8 to 12 students per room. And their room was wherever they wanted to go. They all had little short buses that could hold 12 kids and a teacher and maybe an extra seat for 2 parapros. And they would go to the art museum, they'd go down to the river and look at rocks, they'd go out into the Sonoran Desert maybe and see Bigfoot. And those humans advanced so quickly. They figured out how to make electricity from the ocean water because all their kids were firing on all their cylinders. They virtually eliminated mental illness. Because what gets rid of mental illness? Community, support, healthy lifestyles, healthy choices. But these humans realized that we were trouble because we're out there throwing rocks and spears and stabbing everything in sight. And they were like, oh, shit, let's just grow some legumes and go hide over here for a minute. And they did, and then they got so advanced. Now, they had to hide from us the whole time. And after a while, they were like, look, Jim, these frickin' Homo erectus is gonna frickin' murder us and eat us. We got to get out of here. And so they decided the best place to hide was in the ocean. But they were so good at education, and they were so good at taking care of their children, and they were so good at building a flexible community that didn't value greed over health. Mental health and physical health. And it turns out that part of being healthy is not being subjected to the loss of your basic human freedoms. There's evidence now that racism actually makes your health poorer. You suffer health effects from racism. Racism, pardon my French, because this is church, racism F's up your body. Probably because there's like a constant layer of stress that's just always sitting on top of you. And even when you're having good times, you still wake up feeling like, well, I'm not really fully free. There are these barriers, but people pretend, white people pretend they're not there. And I think that stress just eats away at you, even if on the surface it would look as if everything is fine. So that other group of humans, they dove into the ocean. Hey, Ronnie G. Welcome to December, bro. Humanzese. How did you know? Ronnie G just gave away the answer. Spoiler alert, this group of humans became known as the Humanzese. They went and lived in the ocean, and they made energy, pure energy almost. Like there's a tiny bit of waste. They figured out saltwater fusion to electricity, and the only waste is like a tiny puff of CO2, but it's the same amount as an ant fart. So it's not very much. It's a very small amount. So the Humanzese went underwater. Some people refer to them as the aquatic Humanzese. But Ronnie G and I are purists, so we just we know that the aquatic humanzees were just the humanzees, and then they became aquatic. Then they mastered. I don't think the UFOs are traveling at light speed necessarily, but I think they're traveling at some other, I want to call it hyper speed, but I don't know if that, I'm not a physicist, I'm not a jet propulsionist, I'm not a secessionist. So I don't know if hyperspeed is a thing, but it does seem like they can outmaneuver the most sophisticated aircraft in the world. They're faster and they can outmaneuver. And that can only be what Ronnie G would tell you is the work of the humanzees. They live in the ocean, people, and they've mastered hyperspeed. Now, there's not always a humanzee inside those little ships that you see flying around that the Navy pilots are chasing. Most of those are just drones because the humanzees are smart enough to be like, why would we put a humanzee and shoot them around in the sky? They're going to get hurt. What if something goes wrong? So they're probably just drones. But it's just us, people. It's just a splintered off group of humans who got so sick of the kind of violence we continue to perpetrate upon each other. In the name of what? Skin tone? Religion? That's why we're going to kill each other? And not to be a downer, Dickie Sullivan, Elaine Blagg, Ron Bell, Jimmy, welcome, welcome. I think Ronnie G's holding down the fort over here in YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, give Ronnie G a hello. And I'm going to add, I wanted to add a laughing emoji over here on YouTube, but their emojis are weird. Oh, there's a happy laughing. All right. So Ronnie G right now has the pinned comment over on YouTube. Let's see who over on TikTok can get a pinned comment, which at this point would mean, I see a comment. An embryo is not a baby. Thank you. You just got yourself a pinned comment, user 458-602-860-1944. From heretofore to be known as anonymous user. Okay, hang on. Come on, TikTok. Let me pin this comment. I don't need a translation. Good God. Why is it trying to make me translate this? All right, anonymous user, I'm trying to pin your comment, but it's not letting me. I don't know why. So humans do vile, evil things to each other all the time, and the thing we're doing right now is we're committing what I'm going to call like a soft genocide against women. We're throwing a little genocide, a genocide that people aren't talking about very much. Welcome, Cartman 20. Let me see if I can pin any of these comments. But we're having ourselves a genocide against women in the United States, and it's because of a lie. Oh, we got new comments. Oh shoot. Okay. Well, anyway, an embryo is not a baby. That was a good comment. I'm having trouble with my TikTok live studio texting interface. Anti-MAGA, anti-leftist. Wait, I got to see what that is. That's a good one. Anti-MAGA, anti-leftist. So you might be a true centrist, which is kind of who my show is aimed at. So welcome, anti-MAGA, anti-leftist. No, I'm a leftist. But that's just who I am and how I think. in terms of the way the country needs to survive, for humans to move forward, we have to have a dynamic balance between conservatives and liberals. Because conservative thinking and liberal thinking are not necessarily without the same goals. In other words, lefties and righties, Democrats and Republicans probably ultimately have the same goal. They just can't agree on how to get there. And then I would argue that social media, this thing upon which you're viewing me right now, has driven us to a level of extremism that we've kind of lost control of ourselves. I think we've lost control of it because of social media. We've always had crazy conspiracy theories, always. We haven't always had billionaires and social media. Welcome, Alan. Welcome, everybody. Jacqueline, Mike, all the kids at home, Deborah, Patty, Beastack. I got to look at Beastack and see what Beastack's doing. Oh, I'm not sure. I kind of know what I'm seeing. I think I'm seeing a man's torso. I don't know what to make of that. I'm going to leave that alone. Somebody named Talk. Big Guns 20. Cartman joined. I'm still trying to see if I can pin a comment. Maybe they only let you do that on, is it only on YouTube? Can I pin a comment on TikTok? It seems like I should really be able to. See original. Yeah, no, I want to pin it. Maybe it's because this user is not something. Oh, I saw another comment. Join from short videos. Okay. I'm going to try one more time, then I'm giving up forever. Oh, there it is. No, it'll only let me translate that comment, and it won't let me. I'm going to follow you and then see if it lets me pin your comment. Nope. I'm going to pop out my live chat here, people, and see what happens. Oh, look, it's way over here now. Let's see if I can keep it. Let's make this big. By the way, you're hearing some church music today by an artist named Wicker Basket. Wicker's providing the music free of charge. And of course, if you donate to Brother Seamus, if we get enough money, I will certainly share it with the artists who have contributed, because that's how you have to do things. Let's see if we can put the we can put it right in the feed there. That's kind of nice. And then I can watch over here. Hey, Ronnie G. Unique life begins at conception. Humans and humanzees continue to grow and develop long after birth. I'm not a radical, but children in the womb are alive and developing. I don't think it is. ... Fair to dismiss them you easily. I think you're saying I'm dismissing them too easily. Maybe, perhaps. Perhaps. By the way, if you're watching on TikTok, if you click, if you give me, I think 10 coins, I get a free snowflake Christmas ornament in my stash. It's reminding me of another video game where you'd go out and capture things. Pokemon, that's what I'm thinking of. So I can win free stuff in TikTok, and I've almost made it to 1,000 followers on TikTok. And Ronnie, you and I are kind of the only ones over here on the YouTube side. So Ronnie is making a comment. Let me see if I can give it a fair shake here. For those of you on TikTok, Ronnie on YouTube is saying that human life begins at conception, and the humans and the humanzees, of course, continue to grow and develop long after birth. That's true. That's true. Children in the womb. So I'm going to disagree with you right there. They're becoming children. They're a developing child, I would say. They're not babies. That's where I think we went wrong. And I'm not dismissing them easily. I'm simply saying if the mother is bleeding out in an emergency room and they let her die so as to avoid harming a developing fetus, that just seems wrong, even if you're against abortion. And another point I would encourage everybody to think about when you're grappling with this idea, because it's a tough one, it upsets people, and we do wish upon fetuses certain characteristics that babies have. And the reason I would argue that there's nobody really home yet is because until their brain is capable of having conscious thought, there's no spirit there. There's no psyche there. There's nobody home. Or as Jeff Bridges would say in The Big Lebowski, the dude is not in. And the way I think about it is until you have the capacity and at the very least the hardware in your brain, basically what we're talking about is a vessel, an airplane without a pilot. Now the argument will be, well, the fetus responds to certain things. The fetus seems to have, to be able to hear, to be able to feel, hot, cold, things like that, sounds. I don't know about sight. But, well, of course, it's a developing fetus. Parts of the brain are wired in, but the brain doesn't just come on like a light switch. And that's why people that want to control women's bodies, there I said it has to be said, that's the underlying drive here. But they often use the heartbeat because they want to declare, even when the heart's not even really fully developed, it's more of a full body pulse. But they call it a heartbeat because that sounds like the switch came on. But people, your heart is just a pump. We talk about the heart metaphorically, but your heart is just a blood pump. The question is anybody home? Is anybody in there? And I would argue it's not even remotely possible until at the earliest in month 7. Because the hardware for the brain isn't even there, isn't even beginning to show until around 6 months. After 6 months is when the consciousness could be clicking in, right? So even though parts of the brain are responding to nervous impulses prior to that, there's nothing there to receive and process those impulses as good or bad or hot or cold. There's just nobody home. And here's the problem, though. Let's take it a step further. Let's take it a step further. I can see my friend Ronnie doesn't agree with some of what I'm saying, but let me finish this thought. Whether you agree with me, a licensed minister who's been a psychologist for 30 years, or whether you agree with your minister or your priest or your mother-in-law, or you just feel abortion is wrong, our new Supreme Court, with the help of Donald Trump, has pushed it so far that now even a woman who wants to keep her pregnancy going, if she's having a miscarriage in a state like Georgia, Texas, Utah, Alabama, she's being denied abortion care. I know a lot of people don't like to think of abortion as a way you care for someone, but it is. If you're bleeding out and you're going to lose that pregnancy anyway, and they won't give you an abortion, and my basic understanding of what's happening is until you get that abortion, the uterus will continue to bleed because there's still unexpelled tissue in there. I know that's a lot for church. But after the procedure, the uterus can then close and stop bleeding and go back to normal, and women won't die, and they are dying. We're just finding out about them about 2 years later, because as soon as Trump's handpicked radical anti-abortionist Supreme Court justices were installed, one of them in the last few months of his tenure, they shot down Roe v. Wade just like that. And they all knew what was going to happen because many of these states already had their laws on the books ready to go. And as soon as it happened, the doctors started saying, whoa, we can't do abortions. But this person is just having a miscarriage and they need help. Not all miscarriages go so badly, but some do. And about 1 in 10 pregnant women runs into a complication, maybe more than that. Some people on here are claiming it's 1 in 5. I'll stick with 1 in 10 just to be safe. But that's a lot of women. And even if only a small percentage of those experiencing miscarriage need emergency care, now they can't get it because the doctors in Texas are being threatened with 99 years in jail. And the hospitals are probably advising them not to provide the needed treatment. But what does that mean? That means doctors in Georgia, in America, in Atlanta, Georgia, in Dallas, Texas, in Houston, in Boise, the doctors are going to refuse to save someone's life. They're going to refuse to provide the standard of care because the person in front of them is a woman, and the procedure she needs to stay alive has been outlawed effectively. All of these states claim there's an exception for the life of the mother, but they intentionally don't tell you when you can apply that exception. So what's a OBGYN going to do? What's an emergency doctor going to do? Are they going to risk going to jail? Even if they don't end up getting convicted, it could ruin them financially, getting prosecuted by the state. Super duper duper dangerous, people. It's super dangerous. And women are already dying, and there's a lot of denial because, as I said earlier, what's happening, I think, is we're having a quiet genocide against women. People are very upset about Gaza. That's fine. Gaza should be called out, but also the Uyghurs in China, and also, I don't even know if it counts as a civil war or whatever's going on in Sudan. Human beings we do awful things to each other. And what's happened now is people, because most of my family is opposed to abortion, but they're not opposed to it when it's a necessary thing to keep a woman alive. But what has happened in these states now is they've turned the law so that the undeveloped fetus, which does not have a brain capable of conscious thought, just keep that in mind. I know y'all don't like that because you want to think they're babies, because for 50 years we had this idea drilled into our heads. My guess is Gen Xers probably have the worst case of this, because we just saw it again and again and again, and we never really questioned, it's a baby. And so then that opened the door for, as soon as the sperm enters the egg, that it's a full human. And it's not. It's just not. But it's a hard thing to get used to. And I'll grant you that. And I think my friend Ronnie G over here doesn't agree with me. And I just want to be clear, I'm not dismissing them, Ronnie. I'm just using science to say until there's a receiving consciousness available, none of those nerve impulses are being processed. And the other reason I argue this point, and I hope y'all will consider it, on the other end of life, when somebody is not there anymore, when their conscious mind has been destroyed either through brain trauma, illness, what have you, most of us, even though we don't all agree that you should pull the plug, so to speak, but you might have a body that's still functioning, but your mind is gone. Most of us know that that person is gone now. And even if it's somebody you were very attached to, you would say, well, that's not my friend Ronnie anymore. It's somebody else. Or it's nobody. It's a vessel. So I'm not dismissing them, I promise you, Ronnie. The minute they become a baby, I love babies. But you can't have a baby without a functioning mind that, without the brain necessary to create consciousness. There's just nobody there. And I know a lot of people get very excited, and I do want to also, this is a side note and a nuance. If you have a miscarriage and you were hoping for a baby, the grief is still real. Because grief isn't just about losing a baby. Grief is about losing the idea of what that baby was going to be like, who that baby was going to be, and keep in mind, pregnancy is dicey business. You don't have to be an OBGYN to know that. It's dicey business. So it's very tricky to start attributing human characteristics to a developing human. Because then that gets you into a state of mind of saying, this is already a fully developed human baby, and it's not. It's just not. And I'm not saying it like you have to agree with me. I'm just saying it more like, yeah, maybe you should think about that. Maybe we can all agree that leaving women to bleed to death, or to more likely, it seems like they die of sepsis within a day or two. And so I just can't believe we're doing this to women in the United States in 2024. And men, you've got to get in the game. And the 1/3 of you people who sat home at this last election, this is why you have to vote against extremists. And I'm not trying to, I know a lot of people love the candidate from Mar-a-Lago, but he's an extremist. Or at the very least, he's in bed with extremists who would put judges on the Supreme Court who would kind of, let's be honest, kind of lie their way through the confirmation process, and then immediately, as quick as they could, rip down Roe versus Wade. And then Mr. Trump does what? He does like, well, it's not my fault. I sent it back to the states. That's what the legal experts told me to do. Well, first of all, not all the legal experts told you to do that. The cherry-picked ones did. And you weren't doing it for the legal experts. You were doing it for the far-right religious extremists who want to control women's bodies. And you didn't care what happened when it went back to the states. But the states knew exactly what was going to happen. They knew exactly what was going to happen. It was that they were going to immediately begin denying women, fully grown adult women with working conscious minds, some of them with children, some of them who wanted to keep the pregnancy, but you were going to deny them treatment. Death through intentional neglect. And if there aren't plaintiffs' attorneys lining up in all of these states that have these laws, then I'll eat my hat, because you violated a fully grown adult woman's right to stay alive by denying her an abortion while she was having some kind of complication. And even if you're strictly, totally anti-abortion, if it's not right for you and you wouldn't want anyone to do it, are you okay with letting women die? Because that's what's happened. That's what is happening. And I know some of you are thinking it's not true, and that's okay. So Ronnie's got a couple other questions. How are you so sure about this? I'm Ronnie, I'm just basing it on science, brain development. I already did the homework, and I'm happy to share with you guys the way that you might go about deciding when does consciousness develop. And so what I did is I went to the neurology community, and I'm not a neurologist and I'm not a neuropsychologist. I'm just a regular garden variety psychologist. Been doing it for 30 years. But the your brain has to have certain pieces of hardware to make consciousness go. And the neurologists debate about when is the consciousness turned on. But what they don't debate about is that it's even possible prior to like 7 months, 6 or 7 months. There's no conceivable way that consciousness is there. And just to be clear, Ronnie, I'm not sure about this. This is just what the science says. And science isn't really an assumption. But I'll tell you what is an assumption. Not to pick on you, I'm just messing with you. I'll tell you what is an assumption, is this idea that abortion kills babies. Because you're claiming there's a fully developed human in there. You're claiming that an egg that is microscopic, a microscopic organism, that's a fully developed baby? I don't think so, people. You can buy t-shirts to support the Brother Seamus Show. I'm going to show you those t-shirts. I'm also going to show you where you can read more about the women that are dying, as sad as it is. You're going to want to go to ProPublica.org, P-R-O. In fact, let's do that over here. ProPublica.org is where the stories are being compiled. As far as I can see, there are at least, and we're about 2 years behind on knowing how this happened, there are at least 5 women in Georgia and Texas, and I think there have been a couple women who died in Idaho. Let me see if I could let's put the display on. All right, that'll work. Let's get display over there. So if you want to read more details, and I'm going to just warn you, because I know a lot of people who care about this topic were just recently traumatized by this election. And what I want to say to you folks, a couple things, is take your time. You'll get through it when you get through it. It's totally fine to completely, consciously, intentionally unplug from this devastating political news, because we need you well rested and strong, because this fight is going to rage for the rest of our lives, people. The question is, how much of our freedom are we going to give away, and how much genocide will we participate in? And I applaud all of you who are fighting on behalf of the Palestinians. I am one of those people who happens to think that Joe Biden has, in his own way, been fighting as hard as he can to get Netanyahu to stop, but I think Netanyahu feels like he's got a green light. And really, does the U.S. have a leg to stand on after what we did in Iraq? Even though there was not a single Iraqi involved in 9/11, but we attacked Iraq. Why? Why did we do that? And no, it's not the same as Ukraine. Ukraine is a sovereign country being brutalized. That's a whole different can of worms, people. But we're not going to go down that road today. Let's stick with abortion. So you can see here on the right, this is Nevaeh Crane. She's 18 years old. Jocelyn Barnica's on the left. They both died because they were denied health care, basic health care. When you're having a complicated miscarriage, which can be caused by a variety of things, and it happens all the time. At a certain point, if the miscarriage doesn't resolve itself naturally, you have to do a D&C, and that's what they both needed, and that's what in states like Georgia and Texas is considered an abortion. So Nevaeh died. She went to the emergency room 3 times. They sent her home. And then finally at the end, they had waited so long, they said, well, we have to do a fetal ultrasound or something to see if the heartbeat was still going. They had to do that twice. It took so long, she died. She was 18. She did not want to have an abortion. Sometimes this happens when you take abortion pills. Sometimes. The problem isn't that women are having miscarriages because they've always had miscarriages. The problem is that because of extremism and social media, and a former soon-to-be president who made a deal with the far, far right extremists, these women had to die. Brian Kemp signed the law. Greg Abbott signed the law. And as soon as that law went into effect, the doctors stopped feeling like they could provide the necessary care. You can read all about this on ProPublica, and you can read about how they worded the law so that they have, Brian Kemp's going to stand up there. He already fired the board that investigates these deaths, so he's going to do everything he can to cover it up, but he's got blood on his hands. He signed the law that killed these women. And they're going to say, no, there are exceptions for the life of the mother. The doctors didn't apply the law correctly. And the doctors are going to say, well, the hospital attorneys told us we couldn't provide this procedure or we'd go to jail. So who's guilty? Your brother Seamus knows the answer to that. Do you know who's guilty? All of them. They're all guilty. So read all about it yourself. Also, if you take even a casual dive into the world of neurology, you can start to look at what it takes for a conscious mind to work. And I know we have spent a lot of years, people, convincing ourselves that abortion kills babies. It's just not true. It's just absolutely not true. But these two fellas, this is an AI comic book image of Donald Trump and Clarence Thomas. These two guys made it happen. Clarence has been waiting. Now, of course, there were 3 other justices involved, or 4 other. And Donald Trump's laughing because I do believe he I think he likes hurting women. I really do. That's just my opinion. I think he's got the bloodlust. I'm a psychologist, but I like to use regular terminology when describing these things. I believe he's got the bloodlust, people. I really do. And it's too bad. Because, he has such loyal followers. He could have done some incredible stuff. Donald Trump could have passed a law that would have guaranteed that the minimum wage be linked in some way to the cost of living, so that as companies become more and more prosperous, they have to bring their workers with them. But that's not who he is. That's not what he wants. And that's why I think, the without getting into a whole thing about Donald Trump, he has brought us to this point of a quiet, soft genocide against women, which the states are trying very hard. They're trying very hard to cover up. What's the first thing Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia did when he found out about Amber Thurman, who was one of the first reported deaths as a result of Roe v. Wade being struck down? What did he do? He fired the people that investigated the deaths and declared them preventable. Because now, if you don't even talk about the women that died, then nobody knows, hey, why did that pregnant woman who was just having a run-of-the-mill miscarriage that didn't complete, how come she didn't get help at the emergency room? Because that's the question you're going to want to ask. And even those of you who many of you, my friends and family, are opposed to abortion, that's fine. But is it okay to kill women in the emergency room through malicious neglect? That's the Brother Seamus Show. That's what I'm going to talk about most of the time. But I love talking about cults, and I love talking about Bigfoot, and I love answering questions. And I want to thank my online pal Ronnie G today for asking some good questions. I think we're going to have to keep agreeing to disagree, Ronnie. That's the only way we can do it, right? Many assumptions are being made on both sides. Maybe. So Ronnie introduced a new phrase, unique life begins at conception. I like that, but I think the way people get tricked by the conception argument is it's a complete genetic coming together. But other than that, there's no personhood there. And the genetics people make too much about. And here's what I mean by that. Like, let's say, Ronnie, that you're operating your new table saw and you slice off the tip of your pinky finger. Let's assume that happens. The tip of your pinky, which has fallen to the floor and is now covered in sawdust, and then the barn cat grabs it and runs. That has all your DNA too. So, are we supposed to mourn the loss of the tip of your finger as if it's a whole person because it has a full complement of your DNA in it? I don't think that makes any sense, Ronnie. I just don't think it makes any sense. See if I can move this chat. Can I move this chat? No, it's not going to let me move it, is it? Can I pop it out? Music today provided by this young fella right here named Wicker Basket. I think you can see him on TikTok, but not on YouTube. Let me pull him into YouTube real quick. Where did you go? Where did you go? There's Wicker Basket. Thanks, Wicker. Your music is serving us well. I probably should have mentioned this earlier on, but if you like this idea, if you want to support this idea, and if you realize that the goal here isn't to create some sort of big heated argument about abortion, but that maybe we can just recognize, setting aside the question of when does, a lot of people say, when does life begin? But life's too general of a term. That doesn't solve the problem. The problem is that when you take away abortion, from women, they die. They just do. Pregnancy is a dicey, dicey business. I'm no expert, but I can tell you this much as a psychologist. I know when people are trapped by some emotional trick, and referring to developing humans as babies is a trick. It's a malicious trick, and I think ultimately there's a small minority of people who really wanted to push that idea. And I think a lot of those people have issues of control. I think they're looking to control women, and some of them sadly have bloodlust, and they want to hurt, they want to cause pain. I personally believe our former soon-to-be president is one of those people. But does Donald Trump really care about abortion? No, because he doesn't care what happens to women. He just doesn't. And I think that's where a lot of you have been tricked by him. And so now, whether you're a Trump supporter or not, whether you're a supporter of legal abortion or not, you might die in the emergency room if you happen to be going through a miscarriage. It doesn't matter if the pregnancy was planned. It doesn't matter if it's the result of rape or incest. It matters that you can't have a procedure now because far-right extremists essentially captured the Supreme Court. And who's going to pay the price? Mostly women. Mostly black women. Mostly women of color. Mostly women who don't have a lot of income. But even if you have a lot of income, even if you're wealthy enough to leave the state, because one commenter the other day was saying, well, you can just leave. Why don't you just leave? If you don't like it, if you're not getting the care you need, you should go somewhere else. Well, Nevaeh was dead within 20 hours. I think the longest anybody survived was a day or two. So if you're having a miscarriage, well, you just leave. Okay. You're having cramps and you're bleeding out. You're bleeding so much you have to sit on a towel. You're just gonna what? You're gonna book a Greyhound? You're gonna catch a flight to a state where your right to life actually means as much as the right to life of a fetus? How did a full-grown woman who maybe wants to have more children later, by the way, even if they survive the sepsis, a lot of times that ruins their chances of having children later. That's a point I think we should all think about. So we can argue about whether the true beginning of life is when consciousness enters the body, which some people I think would consider that the soul. We can argue about that, but in the meantime, what are we going to do about these genocidal laws? They are genocidal. Women are dying for no frickin' reason at all other than a group of religious people decided to force their view into the law. So now the standard of care, which is also the law, when you go to the emergency room and they have a procedure that can save you and they refuse you that procedure, that's malpractice. The ethical code also tells OBGYNs that they have to first do no harm. They're obligated to save the patient if they can. And if the unconstitutional abortion law prevents them, they're supposed to put the patient ahead of the law. But I understand why they don't. because they don't want to go to prison. They don't want to get bankrupt. But that's one of the ways the prosecutors are essentially bullying the doctors. They're like, well, we'll prosecute the hell out of you. And the doctors believe them, as they should, because all of these jackals, I like to call them, the prosecutors and the state reps and the governor, they want to go after someone so they can show how tough they are. And really, it's just an excuse to control women. And in some cases, even if it's a small, that's why I say it's a soft genocide. It's a small number of women, but guess what? It's happening all over, and it's going to keep happening. And doctors and hospitals, if you don't get on the right side of this, I think you're going to go down in flames, because I think the laws themselves are unconstitutional, but Donald Trump's hand-picked Supreme Court justices aren't going to rule that way. Meantime, the women will keep dying. Thanks for tuning in today, everybody. This is the Brother Seamus Show. I'm your Brother Seamus. I hope you had a good time. Here's a 10-second slide. This is why I like OBS. I use Open Broadcasting Studio. It's free. Which is nice. It turns your home desktop into a kind of like a public access TV station. Let me check all my comments before we get out of here. I think we covered all the comments. I'm not seeing any over here. Let me check my YouTubes. That's the TikToks over there. Where have you gone? YouTube. There's YouTube. Thanks, Ronnie G. Thanks for tuning in today. You have good questions. Keep them coming. I think a lot of people kind of feel what Ronnie G was laying down. And keep in mind, the Brother Seamus promises, I'm not trying to change your mind about abortion as much as I'm trying to change your mind about whether we have a higher obligation to keep adult women alive than partially developed humans. That's all I'm saying. I got nothing against babies. Babies are wonderful. Let's see, I'm going to pop out my chat here. I'm going to try that again. All right. So it looks like total viewers 229. That's not bad. I think we can do better, people. I think if Ronnie G and I put together a crack team of moderators, and thanks, Ronnie. We'll see you down the road. I'm about to wrap it up here. I got to go do some snow blowing with my big giant snow blower that throws me around like a rag doll, but it's still pretty fun. Have a good day, Ronnie. We'll catch you on the flippity flip. But yeah, I think if we put together a team, we can get a real conversation going. Because I think at the end of the day, I want to say the numbers are around 60-70% of people who understand abortion. Now, abortion's a hot topic, and a lot of people, they get really upset and they can't really talk about it. But I think enough people have what I would consider to be a very reasonable view. Next time, Ronnie, we can talk about the U.S. dollar. Sure, if you talk about it, because I'm not a currency guy, so if you've got some ideas, unless you're just trying to sell me on crypto. No, we can talk about whatever you want. Unless I'm not interested in it, then I'll probably just ignore it. But yes, we can talk about that next time. I'll bring every conversation will be brought back to abortion. and to how I think the idea of real Americans is to stop genocide from happening. And, even in other countries, if we can help without getting ourselves killed, can we stop the genocide? I think that's what we're supposed to be doing. I'm an atheist preacher, but in my ministry, I think the goal is to make the here and now better for everyone. And I think most people realize that if a woman's having a miscarriage for whatever reason, and she goes to an emergency room, she should get the treatment she needs. And most people would say it's sad, even if you think that she's losing a baby, quote unquote baby, and that is sad. Isn't it better to keep your daughter alive, your sister, your mother? Isn't it better to keep the person alive who's already here, has an established life? The first woman reported on had a 6-year-old son. And I think she figured it out. At one point, she told her mother, "You're going to have to take care of my son." And the mom was still thinking she was going to be okay. But it sounds like Amber knew she wasn't getting the care she needed, and she just had a feeling. And they rushed her to surgery and did all kinds of crazy, horrible stuff to try to save her, because they waited too long to give her the standard of care procedure. She knew she was going to die, and she did, leaving her 6-year-old behind. Because a small group of extremists forced their way into the Constitution of the state of Georgia and the state of Texas. And Alabama and Idaho and probably a dozen other states. We don't know where they're all dying, but this is the tip of the iceberg. So Amber, Candace, Nevaeh, and all the other women who have already died, whose names we don't even know. I want you to know Brother Seamus is, I'm doing what I can. I'm going to keep talking about it. An egg is not a chicken, people. But because we've gone so far off the deep end with that idea, the people in the middle, the 60 to 70% of people that are like, hey, abortion may not be right for me, but I don't want to tell anybody else what to do, those are the people that should be running the government, not the people that are taking lovely young humans and letting them die by withholding. There's another one there. That's Portia. Portia died as well. I think she died in Texas, I believe. Is it Texas? Yeah. Portia died. She talked to her mother-in-law, who said, "We know what you need. You need an abortion, a D&C." She was 35 years old. But they let her die. They let her die. We did that, America. We voted for a man named Donald John Trump who put enough Supreme Court justices. He appointed 3, and they were all chosen specifically for what reason? Because they wanted to overturn Roe versus Wade. Trump does a little shuffle now when you're like, hey, you said you were proud of overturning Roe versus Wade, and now you're killing women like Portia, young women who have no reason to die. And he says, well, I gave it back to the states. But what he doesn't say is, and I knew the states were going to turn off the standard of care for these young women, and I knew they were going to die. Now, maybe he didn't actually know that consciously, but he didn't care either. And he knew what the right-wing extremists wanted. They want to control women's bodies, and they don't care how they get there. And that's what we're faced with here. In the United States in 2024, we're killing our own women through malicious neglect. Can you believe it? Isn't that something? I'm still in shock. I really am. I'm in absolute shock, people. I do joke around on this show a lot, but it's not because I don't take this topic seriously. It's because sometimes I just need to joke around, you know. It's one of the ways I stay sane. And I hope you'll join me in the future. It's been an hour and 20 minutes of it's been my sheer pleasure to interact with you. And I appreciate Ronnie G for putting in the comments over on YouTube. If you follow me on TikTok, please follow me. I'm almost to 1,000, and I've heard that something amazing will happen. It's like winning a video game. When you get 1,000 followers, I assume there'll be like confetti and fireworks and different sounds will come flying out. But I won't know if I don't get to 1,000. And nobody followed me today. Wait, real-time viewer count. Oh, I've only got one viewer. Well, thank you for sticking around, whoever you are. I appreciate you. And I don't really care about followers, but I think it's kind of funny. And of course, the more that this message gets out there, and if I do make some money off of selling t-shirts, the link is in the bio. The link is in the bio, but I'll give it to you right here. There's the link, bonfire.com/store/humans for democracy. You can buy our merch. I've got a proud snowflake coffee mug over there. I've got t-shirts that say Immigrants Make Great Americans. So I hope you'll check that out and get something, and then we will use that money, as much of that money as we can. We will use that money to pay for social media ads to get people to quit using social media. How about that? And we'll push the idea that that abortion is healthcare, people. Because it is. It keeps women alive. I'm going to get rid of that phone number. So when you're watching this show, you can always call in 509-676-6032. Thanks for being here today. It's been fun. I may come back later tonight and do another broadcast. Probably not, because it's cold out, and I'm going to go do some snow blowing, and then guess what? Then I'm going to take it real easy. I am a licensed psychologist. I've been one for 30 years. I have a PhD in psychology. I'm very concerned about the United States of America because I think this thing we call social media that I'm speaking to you on right now, I know, ironic, right? But this thing is something that we weren't really emotionally prepared to deal with. So I encourage all of you to get off of social media as often as you can. And I'm not saying that everyone using it is damaged by it, but a lot of people do. I think about anywhere from 5 to 15% of humans are too easily influenced. And if you have enough money and you want to target somebody with a lie, and you target them again and again, especially if it makes them angry or scared or disgusted, they're more likely to believe that. And it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with how smart they are. It's not really about being smart. It's about being vulnerable. So let's say you're a smart analytical thinker. There are those people that will never get fooled by misinformation. they're smart and they're not vulnerable for whatever reason. But if, let's say you're going through a divorce, let's say you're going through addiction treatment, let's say that your best friend just died, you're going to be more vulnerable to extreme beliefs. And we've always had extreme beliefs, and we've always had vulnerable people. 5 to 15% of the population at any given moment is vulnerable. What we haven't always had is a tool that allows us to zoom right in on the most vulnerable people that you can find. And if you've got enough money, you'll find them. And then they they put a message right into your brain, and they do it a zweep again, and again and again. They zweep you. So I don't care who you are. If you're in a vulnerable state of mind and somebody wants to get you to believe, it could happen to any of us. If somebody wants to get you to believe something, and they can get you upset and scared and perhaps disgusted, frightened, and you're in a vulnerable state, you're more likely to swallow it whole. So what do we do? Well, that'll be the topic of our next show, is how do you fight back against that kind of stuff? I can tell you one way is get the hell off social media. It is truly, truly toxic, and I think it makes us, it's kind of turning us into monsters. Because it mainly gives voice to extremist views. The louder, the crazier, and the more conflict-oriented, the more people go look at it. And they're like, oh, and then your eyeballs, that's the product, right? Facebook's not a free product. They're trading you for a little personality snapshot of your brain. They want your eyeballs, and then they sell that to people. We're the product, people. We're the damn product. So to hell with the big tech companies. I think they aren't necessarily intentionally trying to destroy a shared reality. I don't think they're intentionally trying to destroy the fabric of society by causing people to connect with too many people at too high a level of hostility. I don't think they're intentionally trying to make us forget that we have neighbors in our neighborhood that we can talk to, like I'm about to do when I go do my snow blowing. I'll say hi. I don't care if you voted for Trump. I don't care if you voted for Harris. If you're my neighbor, I'm going to say hi. And if you're a dick, then you're a dick. Because the dicks happen on all sides of the political spectrum. I encourage all of you to think of yourselves as humans and neighbors first. Forget about Republican and Democrat. It's a bunch of BS anyway. It's fake. It doesn't tell you anything about a person. I'm an atheist minister, I'm a psychologist, and I do believe that Donald John Trump is a form of the Antichrist. I really believe that. I'm not being hyperbolic. But remember, I'm an atheist. So what is an Antichrist in an atheist's mind? And yes, my friend Ronnie G pointed out, we solved the mystery. We solved the mystery, people. The aliens at the bottom of the sea. I mean, maybe they live at the bottom of the sea. The ones that the Navy pilots have been chasing around and they can't even get close to them. They are a more advanced version of humans that split off a long time ago and went and ultimately hid inside the ocean. But because they were so good to each other, because they took such great care of their children, and they had such good educational systems with free breakfast, free lunch, and sometimes free dinner without question for any human, regardless of gender identification, regardless of religion, regardless of IQ, regardless, they grew up and they became the most advanced civilization on Earth. And they said, these other humans are going to kill us because they're violent. Because they believe in a lot of magical thinking stuff. And it makes them dangerous. So they got the hell out and they're hiding in the ocean. And they figured out hyperspeed, whatever that is. So they can zip away from us. We will never see them unless they want us to see them. That's how advanced they are. And it was because they took care of their children, and they took care of their teachers, and they took care of their pregnant women who were having miscarriages. And they didn't say, sorry, go home and die, which is what we're doing to young women in America today. And that's the Brother Seamus Show, y'all. I'll catch you on the flippity.